Parents are now researching and making decisions about the right education for their child more than ever before. So, how can educational institutions make sure their brand is visible in the online space? SchneiderB starts right now.
SchneiderB, in association with Enquiry Tracker, empowering schools to manage and grow inquiries and online enrolments.
Hello and welcome back to SchneiderB, where we will be unpacking and examining the way we teach, listen and learn, from primary education through to university and beyond. SchneiderB is backed by Enquiry Tracker, who are the all-in-one solution for schools to easily manage their future families. And of course, whilst Enquiry Tracker is the presenting sponsor of today's program, all of the opinions and statements expressed in the following shows are of course our own. Today's topic and focus is the online world, as parents are increasingly using the internet to choose a school for their child. We examine the increasing challenges faced by schools in reaching parents in this digital space. And joining me now is my regular co-host and founder of Enquiry Tracker is Greg Campitelli to take us through it all. Greg, this is your wheelhouse. I mean, Enquiry Tracker is what you guys do online.
It is, absolutely. And our software is built for this very circumstance, of course, as schools strive to more meaningfully engage with parents as they're in the online world. I mean, the world has changed. COVID has dealt a big blow for us, in terms of the way people work and engage with the world. We're more online than ever before. And so schools need to respond to that. And parents are doing their research. There's a plethora of information out there that they can get hold of themselves, do their own analysis, regardless of what the party line that the school is trying to espouse.
Absolutely. So how are parents tackling the decision of where to send their child to school? Like you said, I'm sure there's a plethora of, come to our school, come to our school,
absolutely.
Our school, my school, your school. Which school?
Absolutely. So ultimately, the goal is to get a parent and a child to come and visit the school, shop around, have a look around, and hopefully that leads to an application for enrolment. But actually, the inquiry and decision-making process is starting months, years, even several years before that. So, you've got to think about this as a big investment. So parents are doing their prep and their research. The decision to where to send your child to a school is a big investment decision. So I'm paying good money. I'm the customer here. I'm making a large investment. Make sure it's a wise one, regardless of the amount of fees a parent is paying. Schools are big businesses. They need to treat their families like that. They perceive themselves as the customer, and if they perceive themselves as the customer, there's a product purchase, there's a transactional relationship. So make sure your assets are strong. For example, your website is your retail shopfront.
Absolutely, and of course our user interface is an important part of that as well. Simple interface, nice, slick and clean. But what is the data telling us, Greg? What are you seeing out there?
Well, when we examine the few 100,000 records that we have through Enquiry Tracker and get the sort of global analysis, this is what it's telling us. This is pretty sobering. When you look at how did that child or that family get on the school's database, 90% of those records come from online. So parents go to the website, you've got to get them there. They go to the website, they make an inquiry, they book a tour, they apply online. So you've got to make that experience really beautiful, and because those leads are precious. You're spending big marketing dollars, so make sure you capture and nurture every lead.
Absolutely. So what digital assets should schools be utilising? I understand there's a heap of options out there. Take us through what you've seen.
Oh, there is, and our expert who's going to join us in a few minutes is the guru in this space. But
wonderful. Look,
make sure for a start, I mentioned the website. Make sure that that's beautiful. Don't just leave it. Update it. Make sure it's future family focused, not current parent focused. Get on Facebook. Make sure you're doing some good posts. Videos are always good. You've got to be in that space. LinkedIn. If you want to be connecting with your professional network, your alumni, staff recruitment, be good in LinkedIn. Twitter. Make sure you're posting thought leadership in Twitter, but also back it up with some fun.
Interesting.
And if you want to reach the kids, because guess what? You and I had no say where we went to school,
We
right?
didn't.
Right? But now they do. So you've got to play in that space. And the two big ones, Instagram and TikTok. And obviously this is the perfect moment to bring in, I reckon, the guru of marketing in North America.
Let's do it, guys. Great time to bring in our guest today. And Brendan Schneider is the founder and CEO of SchneiderB Media and the host of the highly regarded annual conference, TheCon. Brendan is one of the most respected voices in marketing in the US, and he joins us from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Brendan, welcome to the program. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mike. I'm glad to be here.
All right, let's start off with a question. How are parents choosing a school in today's digital world? Greg and I have tried to outline it, but we need your help.
I really think, obviously, since the launch of the internet, a lot has changed, and COVID has accelerated that process significantly. Things are in ways that we didn't really expect. And in my opinion, that acceleration has highlighted two changes. The first is that parents rely now, I think much more so, on third-party sites. And I mean third-party sites like ranking sites or review sites, and they're really sites that schools don't control. Meaning control the content. And the second big change is that the power or the control of the school selection process has shifted from schools to parents. And I think that's happened because there's a lot more choice in terms of school options, and there are less children.
That's so true, Brendan, that, when you think about that, ratemyteacher.com, and things like that, they're all out there. But what digital tools or assets could schools utilize that are in their control or partially in their control to reach out and engage with those parents?
Yeah, there are a lot of tools and assets, but I actually go further up the funnel a little bit, and I think about 3 recommendations for schools that are focused on kind of strategies or mindsets. The first for me is I think schools need to adopt an inbound marketing strategy or methodology. We don't have time to go into it today, but I encourage them to learn more about that. The second strategy is to invest in search engine optimization or SEO for their school website. And basically that means that when a school, when somebody searches on Google, their school would show up. And when I mean invest, there are really 2 ways to invest. The first is they can hire a consultant or an outside firm to do SEO for them. But I would recommend that they actually invest in their own people, allow their own people to learn how to do SEO because anybody can do it. And then I think of SEO like a web annuity. The more you put into it now, the payoff is greater later. And then finally, I think schools should check all those online review sites, directories, Rate My Teacher, and where appropriate, claim that profile and then update that information with information that the school provides.
Yeah, nicely said. So is education a more competitive environment these days, would you say?
Mike, absolutely. There are lots of reasons why schools are having a more difficult time attracting students. I think there are 3 major reasons, though. The first is there are simply less kids. At least in the U.S., the birth rate's declining, and it's been declining since the Great Recession of 2008. Secondly, I think there are just a lot more schooling options. So in the U.S., we've seen the rise of charter schools, and then I think it's pretty universal that online or homeschooling has become much more mainstream and kind of out of the shadows. And then finally, I think, and this is really the hardest for what we call private schools in the U.S., or if we think about tuition charging schools globally, they're becoming more and more expensive, which is really challenging that value proposition, why a parent would pick that school versus their free option.
And just picking up on that, Brendan, how can schools best present their unique story, their own narrative? It's really important that they get out and say, we are different. This is why we're special.
Yeah, absolutely. And Greg, this is actually, I think, the most important question. And it's one that schools need to ask themselves. And I actually have an exercise for them to do to help them figure this out. So I would recommend that they get their admin team around the table, or potentially their board of governors or board of directors. Give everybody a piece of paper and ask them why someone should select their school, meaning prospective parents, should select their school versus their biggest competitor. Do this anonymously, collect the sheets, and then read it aloud. If there isn't a consensus or a compelling value proposition why, then that's where a school needs to start. Before they do any other work, they need to understand what's their unique selling problem. This might take time, and this might actually go beyond just marketing, but that work will be worth it once they do it, and once they figure it out. They should share it online, share it everywhere.
Fantastic stuff. And of course, it's no surprise that you're giving out homework on ticker education, But what tips would you give schools to ensure they keep abreast of this market and all of the things that are going on? It seems like a very busy space, Brendan.
Yeah, incredibly busy, and this is really important. But having worked in schools for 28 years and knowing the pull and the priorities and I need this taken care of now kind of nature of schools, it's really for me not about the content and more about protecting that time. So I'm a firm believer that what gets scheduled gets done. So I really encourage schools to take the time, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, put some time in. Whatever content you consume to figure out what's going on in the market is great, but protect that time and make it a priority.
Absolutely. Brendan Schneider, thank you so much for joining us here on Ticker Ed and giving us your insight into the space. It's been really helpful.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Greg, as always, wonderful guests from you. Take us through the Ticker Top tips.
Well, I love that comment that Brendan just said. If it's not scheduled, it doesn't get done.
100%.
So here are my top tips. Firstly, make sure you treat your website as your retail shop front. Then use technology to capture and nurture every single lead. It's precious. Engage with parents across a variety of platforms. And here's a bonus tip. As Brendan said, survey your families. Ask them why they chose your school or did not choose your school. Just as important.
Good stuff from you, Greg. As usual, thank you so much for joining me on the program and unpacking a little bit more about the education space. I'm loving how these topics are starting to overlap with one another. I'm starting to learn things. It's just wonderful. So I hope the audience is too.
Cheers, Mike.
All right, a thought-provoking show today presented by Inquiry Tracker. If you'd like to learn more about how your school can use this clever admissions and marketing software, please head over to inquirytracker.net. And of course, for more episodes of Ticker Ed, head to tickeroriginals.co. We've spoken with experts from right around the world, chats, tips and updates from education to crypto, property and so much more. I've been your host, Mike Loader, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Be well.